Indiana is the land of cornfields, basketball, and CCI wooden coasters. Its population is 17th of the 50 states, but it has 18 operating roller coasters, which puts it at 16th place in its coaster population. 13 of the 18 coasters can be found at the state's 2 major amusement parks, and the rest are scattered throughout various small parks and family entertainment centers throughout the state. The first of the 2 major parks is Indiana Beach in Monticello, an amusement park that has been operating since the 1920s with a few breaks, and has 7 operating coasters. The other is Holiday World in Santa Claus, the world's first themed amusement park, going back to the 1940s. It currently has 6 operating coasters. Before the top 10, I would like to give an honorable mention to the All-American Triple Loop at Indiana Beach. During my visit to Indiana Beach last year, it was closed due to weather. It looks to be a classic Schwarzkopf looper, but early reviews said it was unbearably rough due to the poor track work and restraints. However, the park installed new restraints at the end of the 2024 season, so hopefully that problem has been resolved. Now, these are the top 10 best coasters currently operating in Indiana. This is the oldest operating coaster in Indiana. It is the portable Schwarzkopf Jetstar model, but it has made its home at Indiana Beach since 1984. One of the most striking features of the coaster is the open train, with the only restraint being the seat belt. The ride stands 44 feet tall, but it appears taller since it is built on an existing building. After climbing the lift hill, the coaster takes a right turn and goes into a mild drop, but it feels more aggressive with the open trains. It then travels through tight turns and several more drops, reaching a top speed of 31 miles an hour over its 1,765 feet of track. It ends with a double helix figure 8 before returning to the station. Due to its age, it may not be as exciting as modern coasters, but it remains smooth and delivers some strong positive G's. I give Tiger a score of 6.1 out of 10. This is one of the newest coasters in Indiana, opening in 2024 at Holiday World. This brings back the classic boomerang model with a milder ride experience, including lower speeds, G-forces, and no inversions. For the family-oriented experience, it includes several thematic elements, making it much better themed than the boomerangs of old. Before the ride starts, you travel through a family home preparing for a Thanksgiving dinner that feels like a time machine back to the 70s. Once you reach the garage, then you climb aboard the train with vehicles shaped like gravy boats and travel backwards up the 77-foot lift hill, then drop back down through the station and into the course. You travel through several curves and dips at speeds up to 37 miles an hour before you climb up near a vertical spike and travel backwards through the layout. All the while, you pass by more kitchen-themed scenery, including traveling through a giant can of cranberries. Good Gravy may not be the most thrilling ride, but the smoothness and great theming are a plus. I give it a score of 6.4 out of 10. This is the first of many wooden coasters built by CCI in Indiana. There are a total of 5 in Indiana, and Hoosier Hurricane goes back to 1994 when it opened at Indiana Beach. Indiana Beach is a boardwalk amusement park in the middle of the man-made Lake Schaefer, and this coaster makes excellent use of this setting. The ride begins with a dueling lift hill with the adjacent coaster, Cornball Express, to reach a height of 77 feet. You then follow an S-bend to the right and take a drop straight down to the water to reach a top speed of 51 miles an hour. You travel over a series of hills and valleys and travel under the walkway bridge into the park before hitting the turnaround. Then you travel over several more airtime hills, although these are pretty tame with the negative G's and a bit rough in the valleys. On the return leg, you travel through the structures of both Hoosier Hurricane and Cornball Express, which is always a cool feature for a wooden coaster. Although it has a great setting and layout, some elements can either be rough or forceless, so I will have to take off a few points. Overall, I give Hoosier Hurricane a score of 6.6 out of 10. Although Cornball Express is also a CCI coaster like its neighbor, Hoosier Hurricane, it's a completely different ride experience. This coaster has a twister layout that fits within its small square plot, as opposed to Hoosier Hurricane's out and back layout. It begins with a 180-degree right-hand turn out of the station to the lift hill, which stands at just 55 feet tall. The drop curves to the left, reaching a top speed of 45 miles an hour at the bottom. Then the coaster enters another curved hill to the left. You then travel up a straight hill to reach a left-hand curve at the top. You travel through the structure with a series of hills and curves, then into a right-hand helix and get some strong lateral G's. You get one more airtime hill before curving up and into the brake run. This coaster is about 800 feet shorter in length than Hoosier Hurricane, but it seems to cram more into its layout with wild airtime moments and fast-paced elements. Of course, as an older wooden coaster, it has some rough moments, but they are barely noticeable with the fast-paced elements. I give Cornball Express a score of 7.4 out of 10. This is yet another CCI wooden coaster in Indiana, but it is very different from the first two. The Raven was Holiday World's first wooden coaster, which opened in 1995. It is themed to Edgar Allan Poe's poem, also called The Raven, which is appropriate for the Halloween area of the park. It takes riders on a wild ride through the woods, beginning with an 80-foot lift hill into an 85-foot drop into a tunnel. You then head up and curve to the right into an airtime hill, then take a long left-hand curve over Lake Rudolph, which borders Holiday World. You head back into the woods and hit a few more airtime hills, including the infamous 5th drop, and then hit some low-to-the-ground curves before heading into the brake run. The Raven has a layout full of surprises, just like its namesake poem. There is a sense of suspense throughout. The ride maintains a good speed and has solid pacing. Although some moments can be rough, they give it character. I give Raven a score of 7.7 out of 10. If you're not familiar with this coaster, it may seem like it is too high on this list, but there's more to this ride than meets the eye. The ride starts with a 96-foot lift hill to begin, and before you even hit the drop, you know it's going to be a wild ride as you hit the 90-degree hairpin turn pre-drop. Then you go into a 111-degree beyond vertical drop, plunging down 47 feet with some strong ejector airtime. You go up and into a 90-degree curve, then into another 90-degree outer banked curve, which is a bizarre sensation. Then you go into another curve as you slowly roll over and enter a dive loop, experiencing some hang time as you go. You go up and then into a downward barrel roll, then into a high banked curve before hitting the brake run. This roller coaster may not look impressive, but it does everything it was designed to do very well. It has a great mix of positive and negative forces and some unexpected inversions, while still being smooth as butter. I give Steel Hog a score of 7.9 out of 10. This is probably the most bizarre coaster on this list, and you may not think it belongs this high, but I think it uses one of the foundations of entertainment, that being surprise, extremely well. It might be the most surprising coaster on this list. When you walk up to the attraction, the first surprise you'll notice is the ride vehicles, which resemble mine carts and are enclosed due to the low clearances on the indoor segments. Then you immediately encounter another surprising element, an elevator lift, which takes you up 35 feet to the top of the man-made mountain. On the way up, a skeleton animatronic warns you of the sketchy elevator and perilous road ahead. The first portion of the ride winds around the outside of the mountain, And then you follow some very tight turns, hills, and curves over a pond and into the mountain. Then you enter the mountain and are briefly held on a mid-course block break before plunging into a double down and into some sharp curves. You take another steep drop down into the lower level of the mountain and navigate some sharp curves through tunnels and a railroad crossing before hitting a small lift hill to take you back to the station. There are plenty of surprises throughout this ride, with the impossibly sharp curves and drops and the wacky dark ride scenes. There are also a good variety of forces to round out the quirky but fun ride. I gave it a score of 8.2 out of 10. This is the best of the 5 CCI coasters on this list, and it might be the best one the company ever built. Themed to the Legend of Sleepy Hollow by Washington Irving, this coaster is found in the Halloween section of Holiday World. An ominous bell sounds as the coaster leaves the station and then begins to climb up a 99-foot lift hill. Then you take a pre-drop curve to the right before the main drop, which curves back to the left to reach a top speed of 59 miles an hour. You go through a tunnel at the bottom and through some more curves, crossing over and under the coaster track. Then you go up and into a curved drop to the right and into a couple of straight airtime hills before going through another tunnel. The track curves through the tunnel, and at this speed the laterals are extremely forceful. You take the curve to the left before entering a double helix with some tunnels, and the lateral G's in this helix are completely insane. Then you hit a few more curves and airtime hills before hitting the brake run. This coaster has almost everything that makes wooden coasters great: a good setting, crossovers, airtime, and laterals. The park must be taking good care of it, since it seems to be getting better every year. I give the Legend a score of 8.6 out of 10. This was the first launched wing coaster in America, and it holds up remarkably well to this day. It's located in Holiday World's Thanksgiving section and is named after the Native American cryptid of the same name. It is situated on a hillside but stays high from the ground for most of its layout. The ride begins with a 60-mile-per-hour launch out of the station into a 140-foot Immelman loop, which exits to the left. It dives back toward the ground, then up into a 125-foot vertical loop. It then spirals up and to the right before descending and entering a mirror image of the spiral to the left. These are quite forceful, especially when sitting on the outside seats. Then you enter a 0G roll before hitting an S-curve and a half helix. You finish out the ride with an inline twist through the barn before hitting the brake run. This ride is very forceful all the way through, which is probably helped by the short trains that whip through the course. It has fantastic pacing also, from the launch to the final inline twist. I give Thunderbird a score of 9.1 out of 10. This is not only the best coaster in Indiana, but one of the best wooden coasters in the world. Themed to the voyage of the Pilgrims on the Mayflower, it is the second longest wooden coaster and 7th longest overall coaster in the world at 6,442 feet. It begins with a 159-foot lift hill into a 154-foot drop to reach a top speed of 67 miles an hour. Then you travel over 2 camelback hills with underground tunnels in the valleys. Then you get a couple more bunny hills through tunnels before entering the Spaghetti Bowl section. This essentially follows the outside of a circle with several curves and banks before taking an S-curve through a tunnel and hitting a mid-course brake run. These brakes are always turned on, except for special events at Holiday World, but even with the brakes on, the second half of the ride is insane. You enter a long tunnel with a triple down, then the rest of the ride is a relentless journey over several airtime hills and curves back to the station. You pass by the queue in a tunnel, then wrap around the station and dive under the walking path through a tunnel before finally hitting the brake run. Just when you think the ride is over, there is a surprise element every time, and it keeps going. The park claims that the Voyage holds the record for airtime on a coaster with 24 seconds in total, and this can certainly be felt throughout the ride. There can be rough spots on this coaster, which can be jarring at such a high speed, but the park maintains the ride by consistently retracking sections so that the rough areas are smoothed out. Considering that my channel is named after it, it should rank very high. I give Voyage a score of 9.6 out of 10. Those have been the top 10 roller coasters in Indiana. There are a lot of solid wooden coasters here, so it was a tough competition between them. Please subscribe to see more videos in the future and check out my previous videos if you enjoyed this one. I even have a playlist for other ranking videos like this. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on my next voyage.